This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, hey everyone, happy Friday and everything. Our agenda today, three things. One is a report out that you see from the report from John Schaff and the really successful workshop we had. After that, it's going to be planning on the five workshop from Shahab and Quinn. And finally, we're going to do a little bit of planning for the builders panel at the Global Summit. That's what is on the agenda. John, thank you. All yours.
All right. So yeah. All right. So we have our the chiplets for HPC and advanced sensors. This was co-sponsored by OCP and the Department of Energy. And the background is that we've seen this diagram before. The trailing off of the end of Dennard scaling in 2005 has led to this massive increase in parallelism. But we said, oh, well, it's great that we are still able to cram more transistors in the chip, but our exascale computing program, which is a $3.8 billion program to develop the next generation of supercomputers, slipped in just under the wire here as things are starting to slow down in terms of our ability to afford large scale chips in the future. And so we're asking the question, now what do we do? And this has become even more urgent recently as we, in the HPC space, have been tracking for the past 30 years the performance growth of our supercomputing systems. And this is tracked as the by the LINPACK benchmark, which is arguably too easy of a benchmark, but even with that, we're seeing some worrying trends. This graph here shows 30 years of performance data from the top 500 supercomputers in the world. The red line is number one on the list, and the orange is number 500 on that list. And then we have the sum of everything in the list is the blue line. Historically, we've seen 1,000x growth every 10 to 11 years. But if we look at the last 8 years of data, it's quite a bit different. The extrapolation for the past 8 years of data gives us 10x every 10 years instead of the traditional 1,000x that we have been accustomed to. And so this means, number one, this can't be the measure of our success anymore. Number two, that we can't continue doing things the way that we're currently doing them, or else we're going to be consigned to 10x every 10 years instead of 1,000x. And our apps in the HPC space demand that 1,000x every 10 years curve. And also for AI and machine learning, these large language models demand even more than 1,000x every 10 years performance growth in order to keep up with the demand. So it's also the case that DOE makes its own custom sensors for sequencers, detectors, processors. We have operate some of the world's largest experimental systems, and they have thousands of square meters of CCD sensors that have to be radiation hard. And in order to pull all the data off of those sensors requires a lot of integrated processing in the sensors and also photonics, co-packaged optics. So there are commercial concerns that have very high density FPGAs and photonics, and we'd love to be able to co-integrate those with the detectors that are designed by our own internal design teams. We're not experts in designing FPGAs, but we are experts in designing the detectors. So we recognize that one of the approaches to continue to get performance growth in a constrained environment is specialization. Not only is it computer architects' way of extracting more performance in a resource-limited environment, it's how nature extracts more performance in a resource-limited environment. So in the old days, we have Xeon and Power, these very general-purpose, powerful raptors. But as we encountered post-Dennard scarcity, or food scarcity in the case of these birds, you end up with a bunch of smaller critters. Like this is a couple dozen really aggressive sparrows. That's similar to Knight's Landing from Intel, AMD, the Cavium and Marvell processors, and GPUs to a certain extent. Lots of smaller creatures going after the food. But if you end up having even further scarcity, food scarcity, so post more scarcity, then the critters have to go after different kinds of food, and you end up evolving these specialized beaks, like the Darwin birds here, and that's what's happening. We're seeing at Apple, Google, Amazon, and Microsoft, this kind of specialization in the data center. But how do we get that at cost? Well, we're looking towards chiplets as a cost-effective way to enable domain specialization and modularity. It gives us access to really high-quality commercial IP for reusable components like the memory, the SerDes, and processors, but enables us to also incorporate at a much lower cost, reusable specialized function blocks that are good for our workloads or good for different workloads. And it has massive data movement between those chiplets within the package. And so we think that this is the path forward for enabling a wide range of custom solutions. Now, of course, you guys have known this for quite a while. However, my colleagues in the Department of Energy have been largely busy with the exascale computing project, but also I think that the way that we've talked about chiplets has kind of gone over their heads. We talk in these conferences like SemiCon and stuff about how to build for test and the die-to-die interfaces, things like that. And the application domain scientists and the DOE, I guess, needed to be able to understand why this is so important and why they should be paying attention. So we organized this Chiplets for HPC and Advanced Sensors workshop, which took place in Berkeley on August 15th and 16th. It was co-organized by the Open Compute Project. Berkeley recently joined the Open Compute Project officially as a member. You can go to this website here to get all the details and download all the presentations, but it's really a crash course for Department of Energy and also people from other agencies on the chiplet technology. What are the opportunities? What are the limitations? And how could we put them to work for applications in the HPC and advanced sensor space? We had about 90 in-person participants before we had to cut off sign up for it. And so we switched and also covered it online through a Zoom. And we had about 430 people joined us for the online version of the meeting. And we had program managers, not just from DOE, but also from the National Science Foundation, DARPA, IARPA, and the NSA present for the meeting to understand better about chiplets. We had a very large program committee, but that was so that we could reach into multiple organizations, Oak Ridge, all the labs, Oak Ridge, Lanel, Los Alamos, Argonne, Sandia, and we also had, of course, DJ from Meta and Sung-Kyu Lim from DARPA and also at Georgia Tech, and of course BAPI and Cliff. So that basically those were the folks that basically helped put this whole thing together. And like I say, it was co-sponsored by the OCP. In terms of the organization, we organized the workshop on the first day as 4 panels. The first panel covered the big picture on chiplets technology. Subu gave us a broad overview of chiplets technology and the state of the art. Bill Chen talked through the road mapping activities for chiplets, and then Sung-Kyu Lim was looking beyond chiplets, things like the 3DIC program that's spinning up at DARPA. We went then into the chiplets economy and ecosystem. Cliff basically was the chair for that. Cover the chiplet ecosystem, open standards for die-to-die, including ODSA, bundle of wires, and UCIe. And Gabe talked about AMD's Infinity Fabric and their potential plans to open that up for third parties, which would cause it to become an open standard if they do that. Not plan of record yet, but they're talking about it. We had tool chains for manufacture and development. So we had NVIDIA, ANSYS, Anu from Microchip, and Andreas Olofsson, who is from Zero ASIC, does a silicon compiler, and talked about research opportunities for the government. And then the last panel was on the applications. So we had DJ talked about hyperscalers interest. I talked about chiplets for HPC. Farah Fahim from Fermi National Lab talked about chiplets for DOE sensors. And then we had Mark Wade talked about co-packaged optics. For the last day, we had people overnight brainstorm about what we should deep dive on in terms of identifying 3 major areas where the government should focus on for creating a research program in chiplets. We started with a program managers roundtable for where the program managers from the different agencies talked about what they heard on the first day and what they got out of it, and then we voted on topics and did breakouts. I'm not going to go through the output of the breakouts because it was quite voluminous, but I encourage you to visit the website and see what they had to say. So
Hey, John,
that's
quick question. Can I ask a very quick question?
sure.
Like, on your first slide, you showed all that performance trend in the 1000x, which is really great. I wonder, was there any discussion on how, for example, a chiplet could curve the power curve
Yeah, so
associated with all that performance?
Yeah, so the chiplets, we think that by specialization cures 2 things. It enables you to, when you create, we've been experimenting around with, for example, using a chiplet for accelerating the core pieces of the density functional theory algorithm. It's a very popular simulation code that we run on our supercomputers. It's about 1/3 of all HPC cycles in the world. And by creating dedicated chiplet to accelerate the matrix algebra and the 3D FFTs necessary for that algorithm, you can achieve a huge speed up with a fixed amount of power. And so that's increasing both your performance, but it's also increasing your energy efficiency hand in hand. And so if we're able to incorporate a chiplet like that with commercial grade chiplets for the general purpose processors, like say an array of ARM or RISC-V CPUs, then we can continue to serve our general purpose workload, but also accelerate a very important piece of the workload. So it kind of, we think this specialization can attack both problems, both
So,
modularity, but also by specializing, targeting particular subsets of our workload and creating specialized, using these modular chiplets to create specialized solutions. We can also achieve energy efficiency in addition to a performance boost.
John, a follow-up, any discussion on like things like power management, power delivery, all that?
No, so this was probably not the right audience for that. Eventually, we'll train them enough that we could get into that. But that's precisely why we organized this workshop. We wanted to talk about functionality and capability. Why should you pay attention to chiplets, and what can they do for you, and what the cost model is. So Anu talked about the cost model for using chiplets. Things when you go to a conference like SEMI or SemiCon or other meetings where we talk about chiplets, we tend to talk about power delivery, and that's like a step further down the road for the DOE people. They haven't even been convinced yet that chiplets will solve any problems for them. So once we convince them of that, then suddenly they'll get interested in all of the other details of the technology, like power delivery and the physical interface and power management.
Okay, thanks, John. Very good. Thank you.
Any other questions? So that's our exit goal is really the workshop was focused on the government users and government use cases. We wanted to see where we can create vehicles for rapid innovation to target things like the HPC and the sensors in government research, and influence research directions in investments by the government agencies to achieve those outcomes. And the timeline, the day 2, we did the priority research directions. We created an outline of the chapters for this workshop report, which will be released to the entire community. And then we'll meet up at the Supercomputing 23, where there is a panel and planned there. And so yeah, that's it. Any other questions? All right, now if I can figure out how to get out of presentation mode here, I'll turn it back to you, Bappy.
All right, thank you. And if someone from industry wanted to participate in some of these things, what do you see a vehicle or a path or?
Yeah, well, we'll definitely be the next. Well, we're going to be meeting up at some industry meetups, such as the Chiplet Summit in February 2024, and so we'll report out about it at that meeting and invite in our friends from industry. And in terms of following summits, we'll advertise those. This one was an invitation only because we had to try to control how many people were involved. But for workshop number 2, the price for admission is a white paper on what you want to bring to the table. And so anybody from industry, university, or lab can write a white paper and be invited into the meeting.
Awesome. And we had George as well from the OCP there for the whole week or the entire workshop. That was kind of nice. Anybody else want to add anything, Cliff, or somebody else at the workshop? Any questions, thoughts?
Maybe a quick one, John. I don't know if you've seen some of the stuff coming from the DOE, like the Cooler Chips program, for example. They're funding almost $40 million to cool chip, like for technologies in terms of cooling chips.
Yeah, that's the AMO. That's in the applied part of DOE. So AMO's mission is to increase the energy efficiency
Yeah.
So I'm this workshop was focused more on the science side. So we actually operate large scale research facilities and supercomputers on behalf of the research community. So this one, as opposed to we don't develop cooling technology. We try to put these technologies to work for high performance computing and for particle physics and things like that. So
Yeah,
the
yeah.
AMO has a different focus, but yes, I know I'm familiar with that program, and they'll maybe have a program in power delivery for chiplets too, maybe if somebody convinces them.
Yeah. All right. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, Bobby. So thanks, John. I just wanted to add a couple of things, if I may. So areas where I think we're going to be able to continue the co-sponsoring of work efforts with LBL and potentially the broader DOE and other areas of government is we started chatting with John about creating a community space somewhere on the LBL premises that could be open for people to come in and do things like interop testing between chiplets, perhaps. What we're talking about with Boppy is taking some of the demo stations in a more expanded way and having them as potentially a permanent fixture in a shared community lab, and that would come under the umbrella of the OCP Experience Center program. So something that we're discussing, and if we are successful, we're hoping to make an announcement about that at Summit in October and have something operational before the end of the year. So something that the community here can count on. The other thing that happened while we were at the workshop was we had some discussions with some of the program managers that John talked about at the workshop about what more can the OCP do in terms of helping the community to get engaged in research type efforts that move the market forward in a way that's beneficial to everyone. And while this is very early days, one of the things that was highlighted was that the OCP could be a place where we can bring together a consortium of smaller private and public uh, companies and organizations to work on a joint work effort, maybe even at some point putting in a proposal to one of the government programs to get funding to do something moving forward. This would for sure be a 2024 opportunity that we could look at working on. So I just want everyone to know that the chiplet workshop that we co-organized was a starting point. Maybe not quite a starting point because we actually started talking about this last January at the Chiplet Summit in forgetting where it was now. I think it was San Jose, and
Yep.
yeah, and so this is the next step, and we've got some other steps planned. So the Experience Center at Global Summit is in some way, we're looking at that as a stepping stone to the Experience Center Lab. I'm not sure, Bobby, if you want to add anything to that.
Um, no, I think we'll move on. It's the summary is hopefully we have a long and detailed sort of deep collaboration with LBL on all things chiplets. And this workshop is sort of step one in that.
So, Bobby and Cliff, maybe quick question. How do you envision this collaboration manifesting? Like, would you apply for a funding opportunity? Would you respond? Because they do a lot of those, funding opportunity calls, and a lot of them are energy related. I do see an angle, for the chiplets where you could argue, it's very energy efficient. But how do you see that? Is it something you would go and look at one of those FOAs and have people from OCP potentially partner with some university industry and apply for this funding or some other mechanism? I'm just curious, how do you see the funding coming in?
But the only way to get any funding is we have to apply and compete for it because there's
Yeah,
no sort of individual award. So that's a given. We know that. And that's the discussion we've been having now, whether there'd be an existing program that we can find that is compatible with what we're trying to do, or it is possible that the discussions that we had at the workshop last week might spawn some new programs for 2024, which we would then step up to.
okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah, that's our intent, is to generate interest from the government, so show them what the opportunities are, so that they are willing to create a program that we can compete to get funding from.
I see. Okay, no, that makes sense. Thanks.
Okay, yep. And our most immediate need is to set up a more permanent experience center in John's lab. That's our most immediate goal, to be the place where chiplets are shown. Chiplets, workflows, IP, you name it.
And if I may,
All right.
Bobby, I did want to share one last thing with the community before we move on. Um, there will be a very important announcement for the chiplet uh, community at Hot Chips next week by ARM. So please keep your eyes and ears open for that. Unfortunately, I can't share more because I'm under embargo, but something to keep your eye out for.
All right.
Bobby, question. Would the slides from the workshop be available?
Yes, there is a website. In fact, John sent it out. I'll add it to the minutes.
Yeah.
You know what? I'll put it in the chat.
Yeah, that'll be great. Yeah, thank you.
Uh, I just had to find it. Okay, I'll find it when we're doing the next discussion. Um,
Yeah. Okay.
any other questions?
All
All
right.
right.
I
So
have to see.
um, item number 2, our die-to-die technical workshop on interfaces. We have a letter ready. Shab has a form ready. Quinn has a space ready. We just need to go to get the attendees now. Shab or Quinn? I'll give Shab the screen because he has a form. Either of you guys want to say anything?
Yeah, basically, I share basically the letter. This is thanks Bobby and Quinn and Anu and others who help us actually to prepare this letter. Our plan, as we mentioned, is in October 16, and location is going to be on CMU Silicon Valley campus. Our target is actually to be in person for first 50 and the presenter. And if we get the chance, we're going to open it up as a video just for watching, not participation. We hope that we get the abstract by September 10th, and we're going to actually provide the accepted abstract a template, which we later on we're going to use to collect the information for Excel sheet comparison table that we had by September 17, and final presentation due is going to be on October 6th. This is a letter that we're going to circulate and basically attract the potential basically presenter. The list of who we think that they might be interested about this workshop is also available. I'm going to share it with Anu, DJ, Cliff, and others that do basically agree to share with their own contact. Also, we prepared a Google form. This is how they
Oh, wait,
can actually.
Shahab, sorry, just 1 second
Go ahead.
before you go. Um, Three things. If the people we would like to have, or if you have a spec for a diagram interface, or if you have an implementation, the three bullets in the middle, or
Mhm.
if you've got files that you've customized to a particular domain. So if you have something in one of these three buckets, Andy, we said it in the first week of the global summit. So if you're coming here, so if you're coming here from abroad, you can come. You should be able to make the workshop as well. So if you have any of these three things, we would like to hear from you at the workshop. Um, right. So specs, implementations, or application optimizations. So it's a very narrow targeted effort. We're not sort of casting a broad thing for all things chiplets. So Majid, I guess if you're coming in from Switzerland or wherever your Can-Do team is coming in, this should align with your, for everybody traveling in from for the global summit, hopefully the timing works.
Yes, that's good. Thanks.
And
Thank you.
what we need from, sorry, Shahab, what we need, which I didn't prepare, we need you to please, if you know of people who fit any of these three buckets, send us their names or please CC us with their names, that we'd like to reach out to them and invite them to participate. And we'll be reaching out to you to sort of urge others to participate in this as well.
Thank you, Opi. Quinn, do you want to add anything? Or
No, I think you guys covered most of it. I think if, there's a lot of interesting stuff here, and I'm hoping we get some really good submissions, and it's a good opportunity for all of us to get in the same room and talk and, get to the next level of detail in our conversations.
thanks. And as Bobby mentioned, the Google form is ready. We can actually start circulating the URL for it and collect basically the abstract. Any feedback, any comment from audience before we start sending this letter out?
Just two things. First of all, Shahab and Quinn, if there's anything the OCP Foundation can do to help, let us know. Secondly, I think it'd be good on the form, if you haven't, I didn't have a chance to study the form, to make it very clear that the people you're looking for, you have a very specific criteria right on the form so people could see that.
Sure, I will add that.
So maybe transfer these three bullets to the form.
Exactly, that's what I was trying to do.
Okay. Cliff, in terms of the OCP Foundation, I think if we have we Cliff and Bijan and Anu, and well, unfortunately we lost John Schaff because he told me he had a hard stop at 8:30. But if you have FIs, if you have FI implementations, or if you have vendors coming to you with FIs, we would like you to please um, encourage people to participate and present their results at this workshop.
Okay.
Also,
So
we
if
are
you,
looking for a sponsor if any one of you guys, basically the company, wants to. be a sponsor, please let us know.
Yes, we need sponsorship for food. I
Exact
think we've got
coffee
the
break.
venue covered. Yeah.
Well, that we would have to do some sort of outreach and see if someone wants to sponsor that. Um, would have to put together some proposal with some gives and gets. So what would the company get for doing the sponsorship, and what would the cost be? So we would have to work up some sort of a budget and agenda and pamphlet to sell that. So it's something maybe we could take offline, Boppy, and if we're going to do that, or is some other organization going to take the charge for trying to get a sponsorship? Or if we already know an organization that would like to sponsor.
No, we don't. I think we were thinking IEEE, but I don't know how likely that is right now.
I prepare actually a very draft uh, proposal how they can actually do it. I was going to share it with you and then share it with IEEE to seek for maybe a coffee break or something.
Right. Well, I don't know that the OCP Foundation itself could be a sponsor, but we could definitely send an outreach to our membership potentially and see if someone's willing to okay to
Yeah,
sponsor it.
that would
So
be
that
good. I don't think we're looking at a large dollar amount. I don't believe for the food and beverages. So for what it's worth.
sure. Um, Boppy, let's take that offline maybe early next week and see if there's something we can do around that.
Yeah, that would be good, please. Thank you. Hey, Shahab, you know that slide you had with the list of people we were thinking of, we were targeting, and
Yeah.
maybe that let's look at are there any names we can bold where we need help. Um, that yeah. Um, so I think so. If anybody can, so I think Majid, we got Kando covered, right?
Yes,
I
yes. I also just took a note to talk to our marketing. I don't know if, as well, right?
okay.
And yeah,
So we got Kando covered. I think we can. Where are the places that we don't have covered is what I guess what I'm looking at.
Since Taufik is on call, AMD, I think it's the place that we never had the chance to hear anything from them.
Tawfiq, you think you can get somebody to talk about it?
I'm sorry, I was a little bit multiplexing. You're asking me to help with a speaker to talk about Infinity Fabric?
Yeah, but not talk about Infinity Fabric in sort of a general sense, but to sort of share as much as you can about the FI itself. There's a very FI focused workshop, this first edition.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I can try. I can certainly, ask. I know the people working on that stuff. I can
Okay,
certainly try and get them. Yeah, sure.
perfect. Thank you. Michael, do you think you could sort of reach out to Samsung? We'll forward you the invitation letter, etc. And
Sure, sure. Yeah, actually, yeah, I was looking for this letter. I think the letter will upon, what to prepare for that.
Bobby, can you send
I
it to me
already
as
talked
well?
to Boundary
of
Side.
course, of course, that's
Thank you.
thanks, Michael. Excellent.
And TSMC,
Thank you.
if we know anybody at TSMC.
Anu, do you want to bite off TSMC? She's no.
That's a really hard one.
No, that's a really hard one. I was.
Yeah.
Gee, that's we need to park that.
You know,
Nvidia.
maybe the GUC guy can help us, right? I mean, I honestly don't know where LippinCon is going, but I think if we have a good contact at GUC, I think we have some likelihood of probing what TSMC is thinking.
Okay, we can reach out to uh, Cliff. Maybe you can reach out to ARM.
Um, sure. We do have the contacts, and hopefully they're coming to the
Yeah. So
experience this
you and I can
week.
reach out to ARM.
Yep.
So we got NXP. NX is Trent online? No. Okay. Um, what was the other one I was thinking of?
In NXP, do we have anybody at NXP?
Yeah, NXP we can get Alvin. That I can reach out to Alvin.
Okay.
Who else do we have?
NVIDIA.
ACC, we got to ask Boifeng about ACC in China, whether they'd be interested. NVIDIA is a big hole. Anybody have a name at NVIDIA? I mean, there's one guy I could reach out to.
There's
That
only Giri, right? He joined some of the meetings.
is Giri and the guy at the DOE summit, John Wilson.
Oh, John. Actually, John that's a great contact.
Yeah.
Also,
Are you
I know
volunteering?
people on the Phi
I
side,
can
I
reach
think.
out to John.
All right.
He and I had
Awesome.
actually some really great conversations. So
All right. I didn't even get a twist on his hand.
yeah, I know. We talked about our kids. That's why it wasn't about work.
Okay.
We both
Story.
complained about our kids, I think. No, just kidding.
Poppy, did you have someone for AIB? We do have
No,
links.
we don't have anybody for. Well, I guess AIB is the key question is, do we get the government to talk about AIB? There is a guy I can reach out to in government.
Okay. We do have links in with the CHIPS Alliance. We could
All right.
ask them if
Yeah.
someone
So
be
yeah.
willing to talk
See,
about it.
so Bapi, wasn't it the Navy crane guys who were promoting this in a big way because of the
Yeah,
ship
exactly. That's what
program?
I was thinking. But I like Cliff's idea of reaching out to the CHIPS Alliance. We'll see how. If that doesn't work out, we'll go to the government guys.
Yeah, okay.
Bapi, do you know anybody from Bancha Wire?
Maybe.
That's a difficult one.
That's hard to find.
PCI is going to be a tricky one, right? We need to pick one vendor or something. Is there any name or not on this list that any of you see that we should invite? Maybe that's the other question to ask.
I haven't sensed Qualcomm's willingness to participate, but there's a possibility they might be interested.
Oh, that's a great catch. And thank you.
And do you know anyone there, Bijan, that you can help us with?
Yeah, I might know the right people, but yeah, I have to dig through my contacts to see.
Thanks.
What about HCC? Who do we get for HBM? I'm sorry.
HBM, I was thinking either we're gonna get it from Cadence or Synopsys.
You don't want to ask the Micron guys directly? They won't have it?
I don't think if they do have a Phi IP for it.
Okay. All right, thanks.
And HBM4 is not out, but if anybody can share anything what's gonna be basically in future, that's another possibility.
Is there anybody? So we're running out of time here. I'm going to save at least 15 minutes for the panel discussion. So anybody who thinks they can reach out to some name on this ACC? Somebody have any reach to the ACC people in Beijing?
We can reach out to the guy who presented that.
Yeah, the professor, right?
Yeah. I forgot his name, sorry.
Yep. MediaTek, that's the other one we're missing.
Yeah, here we have it.
No, I know a person.
I will actually, I know somebody. But I'm not sure if they are willing to share, but I will try.
Okay, then in that case, if there's nothing else, I think we're in business.
I guess just one more quick thing is and maybe this is for Cliff. I think we're going to need someone to help us with registration as a next step after this call for papers.
Can you help me understand help you with registration in terms of?
If we have already have a mechanism for doing a registration for people to sign up.
Well, but you mean for the audience people?
For the audience, yes. Just for the attendees.
Okay, we do have ways to do that using Eventbrite or other things, and so we could get the events team engaged to help set that up.
Yeah, we could put something together, but if you already have best practices here, it'd be great to just use that as the participant registration.
Yeah, let's look into that as well. Maybe we'll get a call together next week with the appropriate people on the event side and see how we help you both. Maybe do a quick outreach for sponsorship, and you've already got the request for papers handled. So then it's a matter of any additional people that you want to register, because we're not opening this to the world, right? It's a very small set, correct?
It's going to be very small, yes.
Okay, so let's understand the need and see what we can do.
Oh, yeah, there's a 30% chance it may snowball and have a significant online audience. Okay,
Well, that's
all right.
something we need to think about, right? Because if you're going to keep it to a small in-person set and that's it, that's one thing. But if we decide we want to go broader and have, let's say, an online audience, then it's a different kind of outreach that we would do, and that's a much different. So we should decide that at the outset what we want.
Yeah, we should. Okay. Hey, Anu, we'll start the business meeting 5 minutes late in case this runs over because we got to do the same panel planning that we're going to do for in the business meeting.
Okay.
All right. Hey, Shahab, thank you. We got the form. We'll get these out. Please reach out to your contacts this week. We want to give people 4 weeks to respond. The last item on our agenda is the slides for the Global Summit are due, at least draft slides are due tomorrow, or Sunday, excuse me. Tom was online. Yes, he is online. So we have a panel on builders, and essentially, as all of you know, we have an OCP Experience Center. And the builders are basically on that panel. We've got Tom, who's graciously agreed to moderate it. We've got JP from D-Matrix, Majid from Can Andy from Fraunhofer, and so the professor from UCLA who couldn't make it today. So what I wanted to do today was basically align or at least have a brief discussion on what the panel's about, and then maybe what your first draft of slides will be about. Tom or Cliff. By way of context, this is centered around the Open Chiplet Economy Experience Center. There's 11 stations. So look for some participation from the 7 companies which are exhibiting but are part of other talks to also participate in this panel in some fashion. That's the only guideline. We have 3 sections. Three types of exhibits. We've got chiplets, we've got IP, and we've got workflow. Those are 3 components in the OCA Experience Center. So our goal for today in the next 10 minutes is to at least just to first order do a quick discussion between Tom, Andy, JP, and Majid on what this looks like. Roughly what your take is so far.
I can start. Majid here can do. Yeah, so I just finished at least the draft. And as it was in the abstract, I think this is a panel discussion, so we have to be careful not to overrun our time. We wanted to, since we did this chiplet-based PCIe product, which scales, by 4, by 8, by 16, using multiple dies, we wanted to share our experience of the challenges and advantages and pains that we go through to get this product out. And this is also part of the Experience Center. So there is 2 really content slide. One is what kind of challenges we had in terms of clock timing, data plane latency, interconnects inside the chiplet, etc., and scaling, and obviously the advantages, but also really some things that we learned along the way. That's it. So that would be our and it's real because we have a product and we're going to demo it, and we are also building a roadmap of products that can use this chiplet in addition to other chiplets put together. Okay.
Thank you.
Awesome.
JP
Bob,
or yes.
I'm just curious, do we have the idea for the panels that each panel member would have one or two charts, talk for a few minutes at the beginning, and then keep some time for Q&A after? Is that the idea?
Yes. So I actually wrote a document for the I actually created a document for the workflow panel because we had this meeting earlier in the week. And the general thought was that we'd have one or two slides followed by Q&A. And there's some alignment between the slides if I can find this thing here.
And there's a template somewhere, right, guys?
There's a
Yeah,
template for the slides.
I haven't seen it, by the
This,
way. I was looking for it.
Yeah.
I can send that to you guys.
If you
It's
could,
just shared.
if you could share that, Poppy, that'd be great. And okay, this looks good. Thank you. So would we
Also,
have, okay, so I just wanted to, yeah, see if there was a plan, because then if we have a plan, then people can line up with it, and either between Tom and myself, we could aggregate the slides if everyone can send them over. And I don't know, Tom, if you would like to put an introductory one market slide in the beginning or something like that, that would be great. And we could create a package of the slides. Also, maybe a slide introducing the panel so we don't have to waste time introducing everybody in the 30 minutes we have. It's a short time for the panel.
Yeah, and that's that roughly because Bill's already made a first draft for his panel. He's gotten off to a rocking start. So this is what the workflow panel looks like right now. And Andy or JP, is there anything you'd like to say? But I'm happy to share this document with all of you if it's helpful. Right now, it's
Yes.
shared with the workflow people. Okay, hang on, let me do that.
Yeah, Bobby, it'd be great if you could share.
yes. Put me on
Plus
that list too, please.
plus the template. Yeah.
Yes, the template I thought was mailed, but hang on, let me do that.
Oh, I got lost.
Keep going. And the Majid. Then Anu,
Poppy,
I'll share it with Anna as well.
okay.
Go ahead.
Um,
Wait, it's Anu, Kash, James, David is also on that. And who's the fourth person I'm missing? You're going to kill me. Who's the fourth person on your panel? Either of the Shahab. I'm an idiot. All right, never mind. Of course, he's going to kill me. All right.
So, Bobby, other question, like how much time do we have for the slides part, like each of us?
I would say you have two slides. You guys are last, so you might roll if you've got a bunch of questions. Um, the main point of this panel is to sort of get people to understand the experience center. This is a truly unique experience center we're building.
Hmm.
First time that I know of that we've got actual products floating around, not concepts, not slides or actual demos. So Andy's is going to be a big deal in my mind. Your D Matrix, of course. Um, and we got a few others. So ideally, I would like you guys, and then to also have somebody. I'm going to have all the other 7 people speaking address this in their portions of the speeches earlier in our session. But essentially, hopefully, there's a conversation about why people should visit the experience center. Is what I'm hoping.
Okay.
But how many minutes each person? 10 minutes? Oh no, 5 minutes
No,
maybe.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
your framework had 20 minutes assigned, and if you have 4 speakers, that's
5
minutes
minutes.
to speak.
Yeah.
5. Okay. 5
And
And
minutes.
one
right.
thing,
What I'm
it'd be also great to, at some point, and maybe we do it in the seed questions.
Hello.
Um, there's two parts in my mind. One is, what do we have today? But is there some gaps we can identify? Can the panel members identify some gaps of things we should work on in the next 12 months that that they've discovered based upon their experience and the difficulties they come across in implementing their demo stations?
Yeah. Um,
I was going to suggest as well, as people are working on their slides and submitting their slides, to think about and also contribute a couple of seed questions that you feel confident would relate, that you could specifically address and would also be relatable by your co-speakers, so that obviously the questions shouldn't necessarily be very application specific to only your product, but could also be addressed by co-speakers. But it's also a good way to maybe introduce a concept that you would like to talk about uh, as a seed question. Maybe you don't have room for it in your slides. You can incorporate it into a seed question, as long as it's something that the panel can talk about.
So where are we going to put that?
You would, yeah. Well, you know what? Let me suggest this. Why don't we just make an extra page in that document, one for each panel, and then we can have running threads on each of these on the documents. I'll just make one more page for
Seed questions for Q&A.
yeah, whatever you want to cover. Page for the builders panel, and I'll make a page for the startup panel, and whatever you'd like to seed in there. There are three important things I want to ask before we're almost at 9 o'clock. One, I'm going to try to we're going to try to arrange a single table for all the participants of the ODSA workshop, the engineering workshop session at lunch. So hopefully we can continue the discussion. Tom, you're of course invited as well. So if we have a common lunch table, the hope is that we continue some of the discussions we had during the workshop, since each panel's brief. That's number one. And then number two, Andy or JP, does this answer your questions? Do you need any other information?
No, this helps, Bobby. That I think the focus is more on the exhibits.
Yes, that's the intent. We want people to be engaged.
Okay, got it.
So as we're wrapping, Bobby, I just want to reiterate, if all the panel participants could send their 2 slides in as soon as humanly possible. It's in theory due on Sunday, but obviously it's Friday. And if they could copy myself and Tom, then I can collaborate with Tom to integrate that into a single deck early Monday. And I'll beg forgiveness from Kate. And
It's online. There's no email, is there? I thought
I don't know that the portal is expecting an individual deck from every one of you that's on the panel. I think that they're expecting one presentation for all of the panel. And so I think that ultimately between Tom and I, we'll get it into Kate and she'll load it for the panel.
Okay, because there I saw a place where I could drop the presentation on the website.
Well, I may be misinformed. So if you want to upload your couple of slides there too, that's fine. But ultimately, what we need is one consolidated presentation that can be used for the panel. That's my assumption. Bobby, am I off base there?
That's why we're doing these meetings.
Okay, so that would be, so by end of day Sunday, we can have all the different participants share their slides. Tom and I can integrate Monday morning, and hopefully Tom, you're around on Monday and we can just quickly integrate that, and I can get it into Kate.
So Bobby, quick question on the staff panel. So is that going to be follow what you proposed in the email, saying like 2 slides for the company challenges?
Yeah, so your panel we're going to discuss in about a minute and a half in the business meeting, but yes, the short answer is likely yes. All panels have roughly the same time, same number of participants, so it's probably useful to have the same structure.
Okay, so we're going to discuss it in the business meeting then.
Yes,
okay.
That's the plan.
Okay, and also
go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to confirm, Tom, that's okay for us to do the quick handshake on Monday morning? Thank you.
Yeah, I have a meeting Monday morning at, just a second.
Hey, Bobby, did you mention, are you going to share the template soon or?
Yeah, you should have received the template. Hang on, let me just forward it from what I have from Jan.
Not 10 a.m. Central, Cliff.
Okay, we'll find a time sometime in the
Okay,
morning. I'll
good.
ping you.
All right.
I got the template from Kate's email, the reminder, final deadline. If you look at the bottom, there's a link to the template.
Okay, but somebody tell me who wants it right now. I'm going to forward it to all of you. So I got Anu, James.
Yeah, Majid also send, even though it sounds like Kate has it, but yeah.
Andy.
Send it to me as well, Bape, just to make sure I'm using the right template.
David.
Yeah, can you also send me, Bobby?
Yep. Anybody else? I've got Anu, James, Majid, Andy, JP, David, Tom. Who else am I missing? Shahab. Who else wants a template?
Cliff?
Oh, I got it 50 times, don't worry.
Anybody else? Going once? Twice and thrice. Sold. Okay. Hey, I'm thinking of we shouldn't have a meeting next week because it's Labor Day weekend. So we'll meet the week after and we'll switch to Zoom then.
That's good. Bye.
Thank you.
Sounds
That's good news. Good news,
Thanks all.
Bobby. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.